Are you going to be? Are you going to record it?
Yes. About the plan of the presentations, we will start by invest for class quiz application for students, for young students. Then Wasil will present. After that, we will have Aliantec from France. He will talk about IoT and hydrogen. And I finish by my presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to do the beginning. I will stay for a few minutes. If
yes,
I will go, but you will conclude. Okay, and just a reminder for your competition, please, for the students. Yes.
Yes, I launched it, and we will collect the results by 17th of January, because they are now in exams. So
No, I
I
understand.
can't. Okay.
Okay, so when Vasil is coming, I will.
Ahmed, if you can.
Can you hear me?
You open your cam.
Because
I think I'm sharing.
Okay.
Now you can see me?
No.
And Vasil, if we can see your camera for a second so we can take a screenshot.
Yes.
Okay.
And for now.
Okay, yes. Let's take a screenshot, a couple of screenshots for the website
Memories.
as well. Okay, so I'm gonna do the introductions and then you take over my okay, great pleasure to have our Tunisian partners organizing this webinar, and it's very interesting to see different presenters with different perspectives on how climate change relates to our project consortium. Again, this is one of the webinars for Project ArC, which involves 13 different countries. We're making an effort to increase awareness about climate change, mostly to young people in the universities that we're involved with. So from Sousse University, my colleague Maha Kemaya, please, if you can introduce our speakers today in our webinar. Thank you very much again for organizing this. Thank you.
Thank you, George. We will start by Ahmed Matlouti from Invest University, Invest Company, sorry. So you have the floor, Ahmed.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I need to share the presentation. So just tell me if the presentation visible for you or not. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it, yes.
You can see now the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can see the class quiz, yes?
Yes. So thank you first of all for the invitation for all of you. I'm presenting myself. I am Ahmed Matlouti, the marketing director of Invest and Class Quiz. So today I'm gonna presenting you our main product, which is Class Quiz, gamified, personalized, and smart learning experience. First of all, I'm gonna start with the problematic kids born between 2010 and up 2025 belong to the alpha generation, a group of firmly digital native peoples that get bored and distracted easily when using traditional teaching tools, tools that we are still using nowadays. Meanwhile, their working parents are struggling keep them learning at school. Pupils are dropping easily from the learning process. It's very obvious. The problem is increasing. In fact, in Tunisia alone, 1 million students dropped out from school in the last 10 years. The number is, I think, very, very scary. You should not notice that. So as a solution is very quite simple. Gamification works great with the Gen Alpha due to their close affinity to the video games. Moreover, today we need personalized learning from learning experience for each student space. Here, artificial intelligence is the answer. So we put our heads together. We built a team of developers, gamers, designers, along with top-skilled educator and artificial intelligence researcher, and we created class quiz. So these are also our educational expert and the AI researchers. So ClassQuiz is a platform that offers a gamified, personalized, and smart learning experience thanks to a quality education content adapted the uh, aligned with the system, Tunisian system, educational system, presented in an interactive and playful form that attract for sure pupils, personalized and adapted to each student needs thanks to the AI algorithm. Parents can also use class quiz easily anytime to monitor their children's progress. So here, parents can have follow up to understand in a very specific way the difficulties and the problems related to their education, their children education. So our journey, very briefly, we have been dedicated the project since 2018. So in September 2019, we launched the platform with the free content, and I will explain later why we did this at first. And this is how the product looked like for now. This is a small video. You can see it. Huh? So that was a very small demo that give you a very brief idea about the content and the way we are giving educational experience to children now. And after we introduced the paid content in September 2020 with an online payment feature. And with the start, we received few transactions as parents do not trust online payments. So we have a major problem as our target segment that cannot till now trust the online payment. So it was the very first challenge for us. So as a startup, we need to be adaptable and customer centric. So we came up with a simple solution that looks a little bit weird. So we sold a digital solution with a delivery. So the cash on delivery payment, this solution could be duplicated in our targeted African countries to have the same challenges. So as you see here, we found a solution that could give us the growth or grow us more by adapting a solution to our customer to deliver the right and the suitable experience to our children, meanwhile the education system. So it was the key of our sales explosion in December. This is our impact to our customers, which are parents. As you can see here on monthly revenue curve for the first year and growth rate in December. Since then, we have reached 18K downloads and 4K paid customers. In the last 3 months, we interviewed 900 parents and 21% of them were satisfied. According to them, Class Quiz has enhanced even the school result of 25% of our users. Class Quiz also assists parents to monitor their children's performance. Especially that the pandemic raised the need for quality online educational content, which amplified the number of competitors in the edtech market. Some of them are addressing to the same target or tackling the same issues. However, we differentiate ourselves with the smart and personalized learning experience that will engage, sorry, as I said, that we engage and retain our users more. To do this, simply we designed a scientific approach explained in this diagram and summarized in three main, let's say, steps. Data collection for each student. So we collect data about the experience uh, for each student, analyze of this data, and the classification of the student needs. So here we do the classification for the next step, which is adaptation for the educational content and gamification for each learner. So here we are customizing the learning experience for each student or pupils to have the most exciting learning experience and related to their generation, related to their time, related to their way of life and mindset, of course. These are the main collaborations when it comes to social impact. Besides our social impact, when it comes to the issue of education, so we have mainly three big collaborations. First one with Orange Foundation. So we are now uh, giving content to nearly 16 country within Africa for free education, for access to education. Also a collaboration with Bank Zitouna. So more than 1K school in Africa, or in Tunisia, sorry. We will give them access to education, especially in the rural areas. Also, we've been chosen from l'Institut Français as the best content for education related to the language, to the French language, for in Tunisia. Also, we are also always striving for excellence, for giving more social, for trying to impact more when it comes to digital learning experience. It will avoid also a lot of movement when it comes to cars, when it comes to problems, discrimination within the streets. So we are proposing our solution as something benefits to the whole ecosystem, which is directly the biggest issue we are solving, the education. It's one of the biggest issues now in the world. Also, indirectly, the environment, the behavior of our parents towards the environment. Uh, uh, so, last thing, we created a project. So when it comes, as I said in the first slide, while the pandemic, students find free access like Udemy in university to education. Um, uh, Companies, startups find platforms that can collaborate and work together. Only pupils didn't have a solution for access to education. So we chose as a startup, as a product, to give it for free within the pandemic for everyone to have free access to education because we found a real need and a problem with the children, mainly in school. Second thing, we did a program like a TV show, but in the social media, because we detected there is a huge fact which is increasing day to day at the moment, which is violence within home. Because children are at home with their parents, so there is a lot of percentage of violence. So created this TV show to impact them. We invited experts, doctors, to give them advices, recommendation, how to deal with your children within the pandemic, how to create a very healthy environment to your children in order to assure a mental health, very healthy very suitable mental health to avoid mental health issue for sure. We always do some collaborations with teachers to give them tools, new tools, digital tools, how to deal with children in a good way, in a healthy way, in a very respectful way. Also, last thing, we are always trying to give impact within children to test and to try a new way of education with the solution which is suitable for their age and for their mindset. That's it. Thank you so much. That was for class quiz. Let's make education better for the future generation and for the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahmed. George, do you have any question?
No, it's quite interesting, and it's very important to understand the needs of young generation to use these advanced technologies in order to gain new skills and, of course, to understand important problems. So it would be interesting in the future if we can see a similar the application of this probably to make a game maybe for climate change or of course the important problems of this world and younger generation. It would be good.
Yes, yes, of course.
I'm afraid I cannot I cannot stay for the second part. I will just stay for a few seconds just for Vassel because I really want I know Vassel for so long, but I really need to go to a parallel meeting I have. But you can actually take over, and thank you very much for your talk, both of you.
Thank you, George.
Just one small thing. We are trying to embed very different subject within the French language and the Arabic language, which is related to a good behavior towards the environment, also soft skills. So the student or the pupil, whenever he is learning French or a language, he is also learning a new skill, a new behavior, which is very healthy towards the environment, towards their parents, towards the every single parameter that related to our life. So we're trying to embed an informations and to learn two different things at the same time. The language itself, it's good to have and to be diverse and to know another language, foreign language, and also to know a new skill, a life skill, or a very healthy skill related to the environment.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmed, for being here.
That's very welcome.
Thank you. So I give the floor to Wasil. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Wasil.
Thank you, Maha. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let me share my screen. Thank you for this opportunity to present our perspective on climate change. So we are not a climate change company, but we are an IT company that operates in ITs and in many fields. So basically, I'll be sharing more perspective based on our experience and how the climate change is impacting IT and also how IT is impacting climate change. So this is a very quick presentation. In Proxim, we are a company, we are present in 4 countries. The main delivery center is in Sousse in Tunisia, but we have legal entities in France. We've got 15 consultants, in Dubai 15 consultants, and we opened recently in Cairo. We operate in 3 markets, the Southwest Europe and Middle East and French-speaking Africa. And we have achieved more than 600 projects in various industries and various sizes since 2006. And we operate in 3 industries: smart government, so we develop digital solution and integration solutions for public sector. Banking and insurance will have products, and also we work on startups, and many of the startups will be presenting as experiences in this presentation, and this is also an important sector in which we are proud to still operate. So just to explain very quickly what's the climate change and what's the heating of the planet Earth, our mother of everyone. This is tiny and miracle planet is basically receiving a huge amount of energy. The numbers say that in one hour, basically the Earth receives as much energy as it needs for a whole year. And thanks God, and by miracle, we have this protection called the stratosphere and the Amazon layer that allows us to protect us and to reflect most of this energy, most of the infrared energy that comes to the Earth, and that's why our planet is not burnt with respect to other planets in the solar system, for instance, because of this protection. So it creates kind of greenhouse effect. Let me say it in Arabic, but mukayfa, or maybe in French, chambre à effet de serre. So this is kind of protection. And what happens now, because the concentration of the CO2, the dioxide carbon, and also other methane gases, this protection, this umbrella that is protecting health, is kind of having holes. And what happens is that we have more and more, as a matter of fact, energy coming into the Earth. So this translates in heating in the planet. And this heating, of course, is starting to have some effects. We are now in December. We have a springtime. The variation in terms of rains. We have also in the north and the south, a lot of icebergs and a lot of ice is freezing. So this is impacting the quantity of sweet reserve of sweet water we have on the planet. So this is having a kind of disaster, and if you see it in terms of history back to 1880, since we started to have measures in temperature, what we see is that there is a clear correlation between the amount of the dioxin, what we see in blue and red is the concentration of dioxide carbon on the air. What we see is that when the concentration of dioxide carbon CO2 have increased in the air, automatically we started observing heating of the planet. It's a small heating, but its impact is starting to be showable. So and the trend is really very scary and growing very fast. If you see, for instance, here in the Second War, how the industry has created too many weapons and too many massive destruction weapons. This has translated in augmentation of dioxide carbon, and this had resulted in the peak that started to rise since the Second World War, and things are worsening since then. And we observed it since in 2016, the warmest year since 1880. So maybe just to explain this, we have a great video from YouTube. I'll be sharing. Hope the voice will be sharing.
Wasil, we haven't the voice, but when you share, you can add the voice.
Okay, I'll try.
Stop it and.
Okay. Yes.
Inclure le son de l'ordinateur.
Right, okay.
Tout à fait à droite.
Okay. So you see me? You see me? Okay.
Yes.
See it now? Okay,
yes.
Let's try. Okay.
Simple Show explains the carbon footprint. This is you. You've probably been hearing a lot about climate change and how you should reduce your carbon footprint. But what is that exactly? Just like an actual footprint, it's a mark you leave upon the environment. No, not with your shoes, but with every action that releases carbons. Those are the harmful gases, such as CO2, which are pumped out by burning fossil fuels like oil or gas. The more fuel you use, the bigger your footprint will be. You may think that by driving your car, the only carbons you release come from the engine, but no. Consider the carbons that are emitted just to get fuel into the tank. From the energy needed to extract the oil from underground, the pollution caused by transportation and refinement, to the final delivery to your local petrol station. Not to mention the CO2 released by manufacturing your car in the first place. More than you thought, huh? So unless you live in a cave, you and everything you own has its own carbon footprint. Read a book? Printing and distributing. It uses energy. Brush your teeth, and your utensils will have a history in a factory. Even something as basic as an apple could have traveled hundreds or even thousands of polluting miles to end up in your local supermarket. You see, it's pretty much impossible to leave no carbon footprint behind, but that's no reason to stop trying. Think about your actions and choices, and you'll be able to reduce your personal mark after all. That's how you really put the boot into climate change.
Okay. I'll come back to the presentation. I think it explains the importance of what we call carbon footprint, l'impact carbone. And indeed, there had been in 2015 in Paris a very important United Nations summit where there had been agreement about how to reduce the climate, the carbon footprint. It is the measure by which organization, people, someone, etc., produces a carbon during a year. And if you see, we are kind of balanced. We have a natural environment, a natural phenomena, which is called photosynthesis, which allows basically to allow it for millions of years the Earth to survive, because we have too much trees that was absorbing the little of the dioxide carbon that was produced. Of course, now with the industrial, with the urban progress, with the deforestation, we are having less trees to absorb the already huge quantity of dioxide. And at the same time, we are producing more and more, and with with an increase, but also very unequal production of carbon. And of course, there have been commitment from the most polluting countries. You can imagine that countries like China are one of the most polluting countries, but all the other industrial European Union, Europe, North America, United States are very polluting. So they have an average of 16 tons of carbon issued in the air each year, while the worldwide average is 5. So, and this is due to many factors, of course. We cannot summarize them, but you could see that the use of fossil energy, the lot of industries use a lot of energy, like the steel making, the cemeteries, and also the food production. The industrial food production results in a lot of carbon releasing. So we'll be basically saying how IT can intervene in all this. First of all, because there have been agreement of reducing the climate change, what we can see is that if you want to improve something, you have to measure it first. So IT has played a role in measuring the carbon footprint for any organization, for enterprises, etc. And I'm putting in one, I'll be seeing later, a use case of a startup that works on this, how to measure and reduce your carbon footprint. And also in mature countries, any state has used taxation as a leverage. So basically, taxation means to convince people or to oblige people to be more responsible on their consumption of energy and their acquisitions, etc. We started first of all to create incentives. If you install solar energy in your rooftop, you will have some tax reduction, but also carbon taxes. So typically in Tunisia and many other countries, we have what we call the carbon tax. So basically, if you go and buy a fridge, even though you buy a poor quality fridge that probably has been made in low labor country, so it's not expensive. So the carbon tax will add additional tax to that, more tax to that fridge than a fridge that is more environment friendly, because on the long run, of course, that cheap fridge will be costing more. So taxation has been used as a leverage by states to force their enterprises, their citizens, to force and to encourage their stakeholders to act more environment friendly. And this, of course, has been translated into IT. Of course, we have observed, I don't have an example of that, but we have observed even a marketplace for hedging carbon footprint. If you have a firm or a plant, industrial plant, where you consume a lot of carbon, you could probably go and buy from an agricultural firm that is not producing as many carbon, to buy from them some checks, and that's been the business about that. So basically, I will buy, I will compensate my malus in terms of carbon footprint by buying other bonuses of other organizations or other citizens that are producing less carbon. There has been, not sure I put on this in orange, because not sure this helped really to reduce the carbon emission. But anyway, it helped somehow in creating awareness about the fact that if you are polluting, you have to pay for that. And also there have been, of course, a huge trend of IT for cleaner energy. And of course, we have seen in the COVID, for instance, we have seen how we started to travel less, and traveling less has been made possible by things like Teams we're using now, Zoom, etc., etc. All this collaborative IT and software solution helped somehow reduce the very high pollution that has been created by aviation, by cars, etc., etc. So IT has built a lot of that, and have some examples later on about some concrete cases. And also there have been great impact of IT on mobility. Again, I'll be having some presentation later. Of course, we have also the challenge that the trend of bio food that supposedly creates less pollution, having also debate and initiatives about animals living in nature, and by living in nature, they probably were reducing the industrial agriculture, so reducing all the hidden carbon footprint about creating those products that are used normally in agriculture fooding. And also we've seen some trends about how the IT and computer vision and satellite vision can help prevent the harmful archaic deforestation in places where we have use cases here in Tunisia, for instance, in some laboratories that work on this, how to prevent people from illegally going and removing trees, because we saw the trees helps compensate our carbon emission. So I will be tackling those points 1 to 3 have been presented later with some concrete examples. So the first one is how we, as a company that delivers projects and digital projects and innovative projects for its customers, we have been in a situation where we help companies, most of them are startups, to achieve their objective or their business related to climate change. Because again, it started to be a business because there are tax incentives, etc. Maybe the first deployment experience we had was in 2011, and I would say it has been somehow visionary experience because at that moment, 2011, 2012, when Proxim invested in a company called Chifco, and we created a solution called Energy Box. The idea is that this is a solution that helps people monitor and optimize their energy saving at home by, for instance, putting some intuitive rules, like if I leave a room where I have motion detection, and if no one moves for 30 minutes, I will automatically go and shut down the clim. So this kind of solution has been created. Maybe you have been early with the market because basically we have invested very much in Chifco as an investor in Shifco. We have invested very much on this, when we had even made a great contracts with Tunisia Telecom and Ooredoo Maldives and some other deployments in Europe. But we have been ahead of the market. We went to the market too early, because the same trend, the same product we have been designing, maybe it became a commodity 5 years later. So again, as an innovation, maybe don't go too fast to the market. Sometimes going too fast is not an advantage. But anyway, it was somehow an awareness. So Shifco today does something completely different from what it did 10 years ago. But it was already an investment we did to have better energy saving and create awareness. Because again, the benchmark that has been achieved by Shifco, in homes where this solution has been deployed, without probably making any real monitoring, the fact that you are monitoring every day how much your consumption is costing you in terms of energy, how much leaving the TV on the idle state when you go to sleep, and you see that on your app, creates already somehow of awareness. So seeing numbers automatically creates up to 30% of better responsibility in how to manage energy when you are as a consumer. So this has been the first deployment, maybe the most advanced one I would see, because this is a straightforward result, what is called tax carbon. So there have been incentives, and also from the European governments. This is a French startup that for whom we have worked or developed this product. Basically, it has a smart idea about first of all helping enterprises to go and leverage some tax incentives, some donations, because they're putting measures for the government. So the idea is simple, is again to use the IT traffic, so the network traffic, the router traffic, the SNMP low-level traffic happening in an organization, and to be able to trace a dashboard about the traffic happening, and there has been model to transpose this into cost of energy and cost of carbon. So the idea is that this is helping SMEs, enterprises, to monitor by putting this tool that is intrusive, that it just reads the traffic happening in the on an organization. And if you are, for instance, a server, you know that IT services are very energy consuming. By interrogating the SNMP, which is a low-level agent on that server, you can have an idea about how much bits, how much binary, how much traffic has been happening on the server, and how much activity, CPU activity has been happening, and there has been modeled to transpose this in terms of energy consumption. So this is a great startup, and again, we are really in the how the IT is taking somehow advantage of fiscal environment and the legal changes to provide innovation that will help at the end to create awareness and reduce the pollution, but also help the enterprises in this case better manage their taxes and pay low taxes because they are have an environment-friendly organization. There is another trend also is how IT can help having cleaner energy. I have already stated the cases of collaborative tools where teams, etc., help travel much less than we used to do before. But also we can see, I'm probably presenting this use case. These are just friends sharing with me an executive program I'm having personally with the Columbia Business University in New York. So this is a startup, very successful startup in Kenya, where they created a product and they distribute product that would go in very distant rural areas and produce solar energy, and they that can be, so they have an offer for municipalities, for collectivities, for residences, for personal uses. And again, IT helped a lot in maturing their business model. For instance, you would be surprised that they went into like in the telco, where you are starting to have a prepaid load for your telecommunication from your telco. They also start to implement utilities like telco-like mindset, where basically people would go and buy a scratch card that would allow them to go and pay for the energy when they need it. So very interesting use cases, a huge success in terms of deployment. And if you see Kenya and Tunisia, I'm just talking about my homeland Tunisia, because we have been in the fuel, we're stick in the fuel industry, and we have not been a liberalization of the producing the energy. We have a great sun in Tunisia. This is a huge resource that we are not exploiting, and we compare how this Kenya, where they didn't have access to the fuel, easy access to the fuel, electricity coming from fuel energy, they leapfrogged. So they had made kind of innovations, and now they have much more part of their electricity that is coming from renewable energy like solar. So it's a question. So it's very important to take this seriously, not as an enterprise, but also as a country, to say maybe we have to force some big names, monopoles, either to transform themselves to have kind of a greater percentage of energy coming from solar energy, because fuel now, electricity in countries like Tunisia and Algeria, they're mostly from fuel energy, so very impacting on the carbon, and either you force these big monopoles to increase their percentage of renewable energy, or maybe open it for competition. And the next slide is exactly this is what the European Union has done. The European Union has forced all the countries, all the European Union countries, the 27 countries, to liberalize the energy. So basically, if you are living in Paris, you could decide to go and buy your energy, even if you're connected with EDF, which is the historical provider of energy in France. So the EDF Engie, it's called Engie now, has no longer the monopole. So basically, as a consumer, you could go and buy your energy from this gas natural Fonesa, for instance, which is probably a provider that have more renewable energy. So as a consumer, you have the right. As a consumer, you could be an enterprise that is using a lot of electricity, or a simple consumer aware about and you want to do something good for the climate and for change. You have the right to say, I can buy my energy from this energy provider that is proposing his energy, maybe more expensive but more environment friendly, wind or solar, rather than the other one that is much more, that is not making enough efforts to diversify his to more renewable energy. So again, open the competition. This is huge. So we worked with this WEDEX, which is kind of, I would say it's a stock exchange. It's like the financial stock exchange, but so we're not talking about the or maybe the roaming, the roaming telco market. You have a SIM card of one telco, and you are roaming elsewhere. This is exactly the same technology challenges and stock market. So basically, they created this platform where, if I take the example, I'm using from my home in Paris gas natural because it's more renewable environment. So basically, they work on all the billing between the energy providers to compensate EDF that is connecting my home, but connected but not providing the energy. So it's a huge business happening, and it has been implemented with the startup we have worked on it, and this startup has raised millions of euro of funds because it's a huge trend. And basically, Eni, which used to be the historical energy provider in Italy, is now selling its energy in France, and also probably have the same thing. EDF, French a company selling its energy everywhere. So this competition, and if consumers put the fact that each one of these energy providers is more putting pressure as a consumer to have better renewable energy, so this competition will help force all the energy providers to go into more renewable energy. Impact on mobility also. This is another startup we are working with, still working on it because the product is not on the market yet. It's very, if you go to Paris again, I will take this example because the startup is a French one. You will see a lot of a trend of motorcycles that are electric. You will see the, how do you call them? Those small anyway, a lot of electric devices when you can slide skates, like skates, I don't have the name, but anyway, this is a lot of people are more and more traveling with electrical devices, either cars, motors, cycles, etc., etc. But there is a huge problem in delivering the devices, the places where you go and charge your things. So the idea is to have kind of Uber-like. So you can, if you have an apartment on the ground floor in Paris, you could go and buy some special hardware and have this app. You'll be able to sell yourself the energy you're getting from EDF. You will be selling to anyone who wants to come and charge his car or charge his bike. And this is a marketplace. Of course, maybe the objective is to win money at the end for each of these consumers, for this of electricity resellers, but also provide more comfort and more easiness for people using these electrical mobility engines to be able to not have a shortage in energy. So this is somehow boosting the percentage of electrical stations. We have also worked with I didn't include it here, but just remembering also we've worked with London, the company that is managing London cycles, like London bikes. Huge challenges about how to optimize the presence of bikes every day. So again, about how to make it easier for everyone not to take his fuel gas car, take other alternative mobility means, and one of them electrical devices, but others are also having kind of shared bikes pool that you can find and pick up and pay as you go, adjust your trip. We have also invested in a company, Proxim again, invested in a company called Naviacom. It's a Sousse-based company that has up to 4,000 vehicles running in Africa, by the way, in Tunisia, but also many other African countries. Basically, this is a fleet, so it's about GPS monitoring of cars. Of course, this is as a technology challenging, but it's the advantage, especially what I can see here about having 25 fuel economy, because if you have a fleet as an enterprise with 10 tracks traveling, you can put in the platform things like, I don't like my driver to exceed 110 kilometers per hour, and if he does, please send me an SMS or notify me on my boss app. By doing this, you are kind of pushing your drivers, your employees, whatever, to drive responsibly. And if you exceed from 110 to 130, the emission of carbon happening in just these 20 extra kilometers you are doing are much more higher on the environment, but also in your pocket as a company, as a person. So again, this is kind of a mean that can be helped on that. Of course, on the platform, you have all what we call maintenance, also proactive maintenance. So again, if you are, this is a tool that can help you plan, alert you, not only plan, alert you, because basically we are kind of transposing the dashboard of the car into web or mobile. So basically, if there is any alarm, any alert from the computer on the car, you could be notified on that. So this helps making better repair planning and maintenance of your cars. I will finish with this, but IT have been presenting about nice use cases about how IT can help in the climate change global battle. But also, I'm also wondering myself, that I don't have the answer, but what I'm seeing is also many times IT can be a double-edged weapon, so can be also have negative impact on the climate. And I'll take some examples, a few examples. Uber, so it's about having everyone can become somehow a taxi driver, but from the environment perspective, it's somehow helping drivers not to drive like any taxi, which just keeping traveling on the street until they find someone to pick them. So the idle time where the driver is not working, basically he's in the parking waiting for the app to notify him about the next trip. So somehow this is all this idle where we're saving energy by getting the cars not moving during idle time. So there's certainly some progress on that. But if you think about Uber Eats or Deliveroo or all these restaurant home delivery solutions, I'm not sure they're providing this positive impact on the carbon change, because basically we are teaching to people how to be lazy instead of going and walking to have a lunch in the restaurant, watching TV and having the food delivered. And you see thousands of motorcycles, of cars working on that. So this is probably not, you see how the same company is providing, I would say, environment-friendly solution somehow, and at the same time probably not having a positive environment impact on the environment, and the other by another brand, which is Uber Eats. Also, if you think about it, the boom of the e-commerce, very popular brands everywhere. But if this is also fueling the international trade between companies, and of course this is translating about additional international transportation. As example, Suez Canal, which is bridging the Red Sea with the Mediterranean, has been knowing great growth of this traffic. So this means that the international traffic, the international airlines and international navy transportation are increasing, and e-commerce is playing a role on that. Also, you think about IT hosting. We see that, as I said, we have Gamitrix is a customer, and we started to deploy internally these kinds of things. We are not really aware about the cost of hosting. It's really very, very huge in terms of electric consumptions. Just think about how many times you recharge your iPhone, and you will be surprised about how much these gadgets are consumed in terms of IT. And maybe what I think is the disaster. Personally, I think it's a disaster for the nature, what we call the Bitcoin and the blockchain things, where people are mining Bitcoins by creating servers dedicated just by having algorithms just to win some Bitcoins. So aren't we getting into the craziness of where the IT are somehow cutting the branch in which we are all seated? So at the end, so progress is good, but the progress to be really good, it has to be sustainable, and we have all to be aware about the impact of what we do on the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wasel, for this very interesting journey. And I was wondering if you are working also on optimization solution, for example, for traffic or for, as we can see at Sousse.
No. So Naviacom has been working. Naviacom, which is a part of the group, working on with the transportation company. They've been working on that, and actually, I think we're not taking it seriously. We are more on the gadget effect than really durable project. Again, it's not a matter of technology. It's not just putting the technology. It's investing in terms of education for your drivers, etc. So there's some pilot. I think that, as far as I know, 2 lines in the STS, the local transportation company, are equipped with fleet, things like that. But it's progressing very low. If you compare with countries like we are also a technology provider of RTA, which is the Road and Transport Authority of Dubai. We work on the Dubai Taxi, which is part of the corporation. I mean, much more smartness, much more efficiency. Basically, the drivers, taxi drivers of RTA, they tell them where to go, and they expect customers. Again, they're working on the idle time differently. The artificial intelligence somehow is telling this driver, based on all the history, if you go in this place at 7 o'clock, you're gonna have probably more chance to pick up a driver. So instead of traveling all around, you will have more. So just to answer, yes, there have been initiatives, and I think that 2 lines are equipped, but in terms of investment has been much more, because again, in everything, but also in the climate change battle, there is the hidden cost. What is the hidden cost of us of not doing something for the environment? For Sousse, where we are now, the fact that we constructed a new, very expensive electrical plant to double the capacity, instead of going and investing in some solar plants, we are certainly paying the hidden cost of having impact on the beaches of sun, lovely beaches of Sousse, lovely beaches of Sousse somehow. But also we are paying in all the extra dioxide carbon that is put, we're doubling that, that pollution spread out. And since we are not monitoring these hidden costs of everything, of time, hidden cost of time of no action, but hidden cost of the environment, we are probably not investing as fast as we should.
Okay, thank you, Wassel.
Thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to Daniel. Go ahead, Daniel, please.
Thanks. So 1 minute that I try to set up. Oops. We'll try.
Okay, it's fine. We have your screen.
But I think it was. Oops. My point is that this one is blocked. I'm trying to move it in the right way. Okay, I'm just trying this one. And okay, that's fine now, and I will be able to share my screen. Yep. So thanks all of you for hearing this. So I've made a presentation on hydrogen. You may know that in France in particular and in Europe in general, this is one way that has been selected after the COVID impact to do, two things. One, to create engineering jobs for many companies that were down due to the lack of activity, and second, to have a direct impact on what is Europe is is agreeing with the Paris consortium on green reduction. So that's why hydrogen has been on both sides in France and in Germany a high technological topics to achieve gas reduction. So I don't know if you have some knowledge, physical knowledge on dehydrogen, and this is why I presented this slide. It's something that has been known for years, but the property of hydrogen make it very different than the other gases because it's one of the smallest gas that you can find. So it's typically 74 picometer. So that, like helium, this gas is very complicated to contain. It's also the most powerful gas. So 1 kilogram of hydrogen is equivalent to 2.7 kilogram of gasoline in terms of energy. So this is really a key point. And the other aspect is that it's a very bulky gas, because if you take it, if it's liquefied, it will take, for example, 14 liter. If it's compressed, and we have taken 700 bar because that's usually the case. You will see it in a hydrogen car. These are pressurized at this level. It's equivalent of 24 liters. But if you let it at normal air pressure, and that's why this has been used for Zeppelin, it's 11 meter cube So it's really bulky gas, and this will lead to some constraint. So the first challenge with handling this hydrogen gas is the material, because hydrogen has two major impacts on material. One on very rigid material like metal, which are usually used for pipeline or things like this. It's unbrittle the material. That means it can create cracks. It propagates the cracks, and so it makes that at a certain percentage of hydrogen inside the pipeline, you can have leaks, and these leaks with this highly energetical gas is a major problem of security. And on more, let's say, organic material like polymer, this hydrogen is also very, always find a way to go through this material. And there is an example of liner and polymers that are used, and you see that in any case there is leak with hydrogen in this type of tube. So it's one of the big challenge, and the impact of this challenge is that even with existing solution of distribution transportation, it will not fit perfectly. There will be huge retrofitting action to be compatible with the hydrogen. So this is one of the aspects. The second, and is well known, and I've taken also one example of LPG gas in Tunisia. When you talk about hydrogen, every people has somewhere in his head fear about this gas. It comes from the explosion of the Zeppelin. The hydrogen has been used to make the ash bomb, and in general, everything related to energetical gas is, I'm based in Toulouse, and I can tell you the impacts that the explosion of AZF had towards complete Toulouse society. I know that there was a car explosion in Tunisia in 2015, and this has led, even in France, to big impact in terms of regulation. For example, in France, if you have an LPG car, it's complicated to get into a public parking. Sometimes you are banned from this kind of parking. So there is real concern in the usage of this gas, especially the fact that in general, if I take the space activity, they do know how to handle hydrogen because it's few sites. These sites are well regulated, and the governmental agency follows them at a high level. The people that are handling hydrogen are well trained. The material are very, let's say, very operational. But when you think that this energy will be used for and generalized into a complete, let's say, continent and over Europe, worldwide, this will create a lot of problem, because the higher number of users untrained will create a higher number of unwished probability of accident. There will be a higher number of environment. this type of, let's say, variety of usage will have an impact. And as you have seen, one accident in this kind of technology somewhere in the world will have a clear impact on the rest of the world in terms of risk and fears for this kind of technology. And moreover, like I mentioned before, since it has been a political decision to push towards this hydrogen solution, it also means that majority of the industrial actors were not prepared. That means that if you work in space industry or in chemical industry, you define your risk. So it's those companies that take the risk and cover the risk by themselves, but there is no international regulation. And due to the fact that there is no international regulation, it is highly complicated, like you mentioned before, Vassal, to have a competitive market. And until then, and usually to make a regulation, it takes 10 years for such a complicated subject. There will be, I mean, a lack of support and a lack of, let's say, exchange between actors. And this lack of exchange is also creating a lot of cost in a market where it's highly sponsored by the government, but each government has its limit. And what is sure is that none of the nationality has enough money to completely support the growth of this new way of having cleaner energy. So it's a bit complicated. And for example, in Europe, and I've taken the example of the automotive, there is a big request from European Committee to reduce not from the consumer, but at the manufacturer level, the CO2 generation. So you have here an example of chart for Europe, US, and China. And you see in all the continents, it's although Europe may have a lower or a more stringent target in terms of CO2 reduction, we come from 100 gram of CO2 per kilometer to 75 into 25, and there is some expectation that we will go in 2030 even lower, and that's the general trend. So here there is already, you've seen, and I think you recall the scandal with Volkswagen, where since they were not able to achieve correctly the targets that was requested, they have cheat by electronic device the way that the regulator can control this CO2 emission. So here there is at least a very stringent and very difficult path that EU community has forced the automotive manufacturer to play. So this is one example, and how it will be applied in our day-to-day life. And this is where comes the 700 bars of pressurized vessel. This is the full design of what could be and what will be a fuel cell vehicle with these two pressure vessels, the battery in between, and the fuel stack for propulsion. So the other challenge with hydrogen, and the development of hydrogen is the cost. So one of the aspects of this cost is affecting all the chain. So the energy generation with wind energy, solar energy, electrolyzer, the H2, the hydrogen production, the distribution and storage, and after the application. And what is good on this BCG analysis, so Boston Consulting Group analysis, is that you have some indication on the right part of how much greenhouse gases reduction could be done with each application. So to say, one major application is the car, and the second the airplane application, and also the process, the iron casting production, because those three are making maybe 70% of the CO2 generation. So, and with this, it also means that there is a very significant budget that needs to be invested. So, in the same thing, you have on the bottom line in orange, if we only consider that, as in the past, hydrogen will grow, and that will lead to 145 billions of euro of investment. And the other scenario, which is the ambitious scenario on hydrogen deployment. And in this case, according to the forecast, it will be €500 billion that will need to be invested, which is far way above the capacity of normal investment for a country. And if you cross this information with other information from other markets, I've seen that it will be around €1 trillion for the 30 coming years. So if it goes in this direction, it will be a massive investment. But this massive investment will request to be, if they wanted to generalize hydrogen on the day-to-day life of a human being, they will request a high effort on pricing. I take here the example of electrolyzer, and the current cost of an electrolyzer per kilowatt. So, for example, now it's around $6,000 per kilowatt, and the expectation will be that it will come below 2,000 in 2030, in order that the price of the hydrogen, which is quite high, maybe now it's I think it's around 4 to 5 times than the other energy, comes to a more reasonable price according to market acceptance. So the point of view here is not what we would like to do as an ideal. The point of view here is how, according to market behavior and consumer acceptance, we should technologically challenge the solution to fit in something that will be in between current usage of people and more impressive impact on the reduction of CO2. So I'm sorry that this part. So according to challenges, there is also opportunity, and in terms of opportunity, AI is one of them that can help to improve the efficiency of such a solution in this rapid deployment. So I've put this. I know some of you are a bit natural with French, but I will try to give the rough idea. This is a comparison between what is on the left part, which is called Système Informatique Classique, which is a classical IT solution. How it's what is the impact? The orange part is how many inputs you can handle, and the blue part is how deep you can go into your analysis with this input. And as you know, we are not with current computer, even in the past, limited with the number of I/O that you can handle. But there was a very limited effect and analysis that you can drive with this input. We compare this to a human, and human may be more limited in terms of sensorial information, but in terms of deepness of analysis, human have been quite good. And that's how nature has given us this gift. We are very strong in coming from one information to a result with a complex path to achieve this result. And this is where, I mean, it's another way to present AI. AI is a bit a combination of both advantage between classical system and human neural thinking. And when we apply this to what we can say a product creation, we have what we call the AI virtuous circle, where you have a great product that attracts a user, and this user generates data, and this data creates great product. And with this, it gives a phenomenal advantage to a product that could be embedded with AI. So this is a simple aspect. The other aspect, which is more related to the effort. When you are in an operational model, in the standard version, it's not too. The value is more rapid to create, but then it declines with the time, which is the reverse with the digital model, where as much as you have user, then your value will be higher and higher. And this is, for example, the advantage of Amazon compared to all the other one. The data lake that they have in terms of trillions of data gives them a highly competitive advantage to the other real player, pure player that didn't have this level of data. And when you apply this to any development, you will see 3 phases. And for the moment, we are only used to the red line, which is the normal way of a product. So if I design, for example, an app, or if I design, for example, a tool, there will be the development phase, there will be the production phase, there will be few evolution. And after some years of usage and service, this product will be replaced by a new, more fancy, more interesting, more dedicated product. So this will decline. If we take the IE approach, including in the design of a product, there will be the point 1 where you will have roughly the same cost in terms of what it will cost for developing an AI engine into your product compared to the normal product. But what we will call the maturity phase will be longer, and the reaction of having this kind of AI system into the product will allow to supersede from a very long period a classical design approach. And this is where, and we will see, and this has one good aspect. It means that the longevity of product will be higher. So if the companies that make this product make it with a very good quality of material, then the expectation could be that there will be less waste in terms of a complete cycle of the product. So this is one of the opportunities that bring artificial intelligence. The second opportunity, which is nowadays, is also IoT. And in the same way, I'm going to give some example of what are the market driver of this technology and how this could impact the rest, and especially the way that the mankind community will take this technology as an opportunity. So here is an example from IoT analytics. I think it was done in 2018, showing the high increase of IoT market. And as you know, due to COVID, this has been even worse. I don't know for your part, but I can tell from the French side, we were developing an IoT device for years, and we were waiting that the market one day or the other begin to start. Now the discussion that we have with our customer is no more to convince them to do this and that. The question is when or what price. So we are now in a position that this IoT technology is well known, well understood, and where people will find success and unsuccess, but the market has been launched, and I think that COVID has been a big trigger in this perspective. The other part of this medal on IoT is IoT capabilities. Now there is a good segregation, and they call them the 5G triangle, where they have well defined what could be the free case where IoT could be applied. So one, they say the enhanced mobile broadband, where you need a very high speed of data. The second is massive machine type communication, where you have it's like the Sigfox, LoRa, MIoT type of technology, where you have a device that has a very low throughput, but a very numerous device. And the other one is ultra reliable and low latency. it's for robot, it's for self-driving car and so on, where you need to have no latency in terms of communication, and where you also need that there is no packet loss, because the loss of a packet in communication in a car at 130 kilometers per hour can drive to a major accident. And so this is where the wireless technology has been improved, designed, and now produced to perfectly fit those three types of activities. And when I take all this information with hydrogen, AI, and IoT, I just try to indicate with this application, so massive IoT, broadband IoT, critical IoT, industrial IoT, where hydrogen will request technology. So clearly on smart metering, because hydrogen is, as you have seen, a different gas, it will request a different gas meter, more secure, since it is also complicated to measure. It will be, a different type of diaphragm construction internally, the smart meter. So there will be also asset management, for example, the pipeline, all what is related to the security of the pipeline, the throughput of the pipeline, the aging of the pipeline will need to be monitored. There will be also regarding smart grid automation and advanced automation request. So it will, as we've seen on the BCG application, it will highly impact all the chain of the hydrogen value. So there is a lot of job to do, and as you've seen, a lot of investments that will be due in hydrogen. But I think we all agree around this table that if we only follow market, and if we only follow technology, at one point the stakeholder are not enough wide. And what I want to say with this is that if you compare, and it was nice to see the graph where there was a CO2 emission from 1880 up to nowadays, you've seen that the phenomenon has been a long growing phenomenon, and for years nothing has really changed outside the fact that nature has been damaged. And this is due to the fact that the main let's say interest was economy, was financial feedback, and based on this into the stakeholder, so the human society, we were missing to have these leaves of ecology being as part of the stakeholder. In France, we have the chance that some of the company has include, in addition to their accounting and financial result, what they call the RSE, responsabilité civile et environnementale, and this social and environmental responsibility allows to have also another view on what should be the key driver of a company when it comes to its impact on the society. So this is one of the aspects, and I will finish with a saying that I like and that we use to apply to our own company is what get you here won't get you there. We've seen that if we don't take all the stakeholders into our, into balance, then we are not going in the right path, and this will not stay for the next 50 years. So it's definitively requested by all of us to include more societal and environmental impact. But as you mentioned, Basil, just before, it will need to be really on the base, what is the real global impact? And not only, oh, it sounds cool, it sounds that it has some aspect, but when you take it all into account, and this is the same case on the way that has been done, for example, for the electrical vehicle, you see that the global CO2 footprint is not green. So thanks to all, and I hope it has given you some information on what is the evolution, at least in France, in terms of trying to cope with CO2 reduction.
Thank you, Daniel, for this very interesting presentation. I really learned a lot about hydrogen, and maybe the point is to sensitize people more than creating solutions, and because we have been a lot of time creating many solutions, but the situation of Earth is not changing. It is worsening rather than changing for the best.
Yep. And what I see here, because I'm involved in some circle in aeronautics, in automotive, and so on, is that at least at a political level, and I think it's a positive outcome. They have a good, for good and bad or bad, and I don't want to judge, but you know that in Europe it is said to be quite liberal in terms of economics, but in terms of let's say environmental thinking, I do think that majority of the European nations are quite sensibilized to the global warming and what needs to be done. And as you've seen, they are highly pushing the industry to achieve good result in this field. And I'm seeing from the way that we are now trying to insulate the houses to reduce the heating, the way that they are creating, let's say, given money back by CO2 reduction to some of the big guys that was consuming a lot of electricity. We see a very, let's say, a good trend where the green energy or green, let's say, energetical reduction is beginning to being a business. And so you can win millions of euros if you can prove that you reduce per X ton of CO2 in your day-to-day business. So it's one way. I don't say it's the best way, but they try to use really the market to generate revenue. And if it generates revenue, they see that there will be people that will give their effort to go in this direction.
It could be successful though. Okay, thank you, Daniel. Daniel, if you are here, if you want to ask a question or add something.
Not on my side. It's more on your side. If there is any question on it, we'll be pleased to reply.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I want to take a screenshot first. Thank you. So if we don't have questions, I will move on to my own presentation.
And Ma, thanks for this invitation. It's been a pleasure to spend some hours to think about the subject.
Thank you, Daniel. It is our pleasure to have you always with us in this kind of projects. So I will share my screen. Okay. So for this project, I will talk about Scrum methodologies and the title of the presentation, when Scrum adopts AR. There is a kind of need for adopting AR in such agile methodologies. So the outline of the presentation is the starting point and motivation. Then I will present again Scrum, which is an application that was already developed, and now we are progressing or making extensions for this application in order to take into consideration some AR facilities. So the third point is the why of the AR adoption, and I will explain the intended impacts and some planned extensions. So our starting point for this idea is that companies are facing always route competition and market positioning problem. The market is currently distinguished by increased dynamicity and rapid continuous change in consumers' needs or customers' needs and requirements. And in this context, on the one hand, companies must offer products and services which are reliable, robust, of high quality, and which meet the needs of their customers without at the same time exceeding budgets and deadlines. As we know, nowadays time to value is considered as the most important business performance metric. On the other hand, companies are supposed to respond quickly to this customer needs through efficient development and management methodologies. Therefore, companies must develop their capabilities to implement strategies and methods of planning and managing efficiently collaborative projects as well as teamwork. Currently, there are two kind of methodologies which are known as classical methodologies such as waterfall, or agile methodologies such as Kanban or Scrum. In this slide, we show the findings of the 14th study carried out by Agile surveys, and it showed the value of adopting an agile methodology in project development. And we can see here that 70% are using agile methodology to manage changing priorities, and for project visibilities there is 65%. So there is a growth in the use of agility thanks to the added values. And we can see here that 58% are using Scrum as the main adopted approach, but we have the agile methodologies are facing many issues, as we can notice that there is very resistant to change. For example, 48% are showing change fatigue, and they don't want to adopt the use of agile methodologies because they are always adapted, or they have habits to use the old approach, so they resist to change. The other issue is that they don't accept to change because of lack of some skills. So our first attempt is to study existing solutions and to find out some solution that will motivate people to adopt the use of agile methodologies. So we took some existing solution and we compared them accordingly to some criteria. So we identified the main facilities that should be present in the agile tools, and we compared them for whether they are using some motivation facilities such as gamification. And this comparison showed that all of the solutions that are present in the market are lacking the gamification facilities. And we know that gamification is the use of game thinking techniques to allow people to change their behavior and to convince people or users to adopt something that they were against before. So we decided to adopt an approach to introduce gamification into into a Scrum tool. For the first reason is to have a tool that will help teams to apply Scrum methodology. The tool will be a mobile app, so it will be useful for even physical field projects, not only software engineering projects. And it will be collaborative enough and will contain many gamification mechanics and techniques. So we in the tool that we have built, we have implemented the Scrum main features. We have added collaboration features with the real-time chat and video conferencing, and we added engagement and motivation through gamification. I can here show a small demo about this tool. So this is the mobile app that adopted firstly the main facilities of Scrum. So a user could log in to the application. It can the facility to add some augmented reality persona and or characters. He can define his own project and the beginning date and the end date. He can define user stories to be put into the backlog. And here we can see that he can receive points and rewards whenever he is doing some activities. We can also have see that he could create meetings, daily Scrum stand-up meeting. And he can manage to have video call conferences in order to have these meetings. Even though this tool was useful for managing Scrum and adding gamification, we noticed, however, that there are some shortcomings. And here I've noted that the application shows classical mobile user interfaces and user experience, so it's not as much attractive that as we can think. It shows also a high learning curve, so the adopters will be demotivated, and if you want a kind of collaboration in global context, this facility is still lacking. So we decided to adopt extra AR facilities in order to extend the game in Scrum, and the user interface and the user experience will be based on AR facilities, especially for Scrum ceremonies. So it will show an enhanced app presentation and then a reduced learning curve, and also for global and multi-culture collaboration, we can use AR and NLP in order to make people collaborate without any frontiers or limits. So in our proposal, we begin to the process of 3D character modeling for all the actors of the Scrum methodology, as the product owner, the Scrum Master, the development team. And we used the UV mapping in order to have quite realistic users in order to show them within the UI and the user experience of the user. So the UV mapping will use photographic textures that are taken directly from reference photos, and then they will be mapped onto the body of the character. And we can, for example, modify the hair and many other features in order to give some realistic to the user. And here we have AR-based ceremonies. For example, here the team will be around the table, and they can discuss about the product. They can communicate in real time with multi-player-like environment. And whenever a team member is not, for example, speaking English, the other can see the translation of what the member is saying in real time. So as a conclusion, we have extended the Scrum methodology with gamification for first step, and then we have extended the Scrum gamified application with much more AR facilities, and we think that this allows people to be more motivated, more engaged, and it helps to gain more performance within when we're working on projects, especially in agile way. And for the planned extensions, we will for the next time use the mixed reality in order to allow people to interact within or with virtual assets within the application, and to, for example, point the product or making it turning around some axis or seeing it from many other different perspectives. And for the impact of this kind of solution on the green or the climate vision, I think that it allow people to not move a lot of time or take many transportation in order to meet up. They could meet up virtually as in real world, and it could bring many advantages as time saving and performance within the business of the enterprise that are using this kind of solution. So thank you for your attention, and thank you for attending this meeting. If you have some questions, I'm here.
I do have one question or one remark regarding your
Yes, please.
Scrum. I mean, we have experience in our own companies that when you are trying to work with Agile and especially Scrum methodology, one of the drawback is that it's you must have a team which is quite homogeneous in terms of level of knowledge. When I say this, is that during the Scrum team of 1 week, I mean in 1 week operation, if you have an IT and then one electronician and one mechanical design, if one of them is not at the right level, then it pushes the team down, and so the management of the team is this is where you have this let's say resistance, so change resistance to this kind of methodology. And according to this, do you have taken into account that it could be good in this gamification, let's say, add-on, to have also an human resources, let's say, extension that can at least a bit help to classify and to show where the people could improve themselves?
Yes, in fact, the use of this kind of gamification in order to motivate people and help them to engage more in the use of the application, and to have incentives, because they will be rewarded for each action they will do. And if they down perform, they will maybe be penalized. So people will play the game and try to upgrade themselves and to be on the same level of the team. Moreover, we can also reward the team collaboration. Yes. And put incentives on this aspect. If we you collaborate very in the right way, you can have, for example, kind of reward, or you can have hints. We can make your project move on the right way with the more rapid pace. So we can imagine many game mechanics, let me say, that could push people to outperform. And
what I wanted to say with this, and this is just an idea after, I mean, for example, you may have a team Scrum where you have a lot of people that are, let's say, quite creative. But in this team, no one is rigorous, and so no one makes a documentation. No one's I mean, if the HR profile has been done, then you can see that this team is not balanced. And then you can reward some of them in this gamification process with extra point, or let's say extra rewards, if they do something that they don't use or don't like to do normally.
Yes, yes, yes. The gamification helps to transform a negative behavior into a positive one. So we can try to check many mechanics in order to achieve some kind of balance between the performance and the change in behavior. And it was proven as a good solution in order to change the people behavior. For example, for exercising or for doing something that people don't like to do simply, but with gamification they have another perspective in order to do that thing. So. I can say that it is a good opportunity to use gamification, but mixed with augmented reality, it could take it in another to another level.
Yes, and with I mean psychological AI, and also this human profiling that will, and human profiling linked to a team profile that could be even at a very good level.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. Okay, Ahmed, do you have a new question or?
No, for now. Thank you for the presentation. I'd like the idea of the gamification within a team management process like Scrum. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending this conference. I learned a lot today, and this webinar will be streamed in YouTube and in Facebook channel for the project. So I will inform you about how many views and how many consultation of the webinar had been made. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Ahmed. Wasil.
Thank you.
See you. And
you soon.
Merry Christmas, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.